All right, guys, the Super Bowl is officially over. You know what that means. Fantasy football 2024 is in full flow. Not that we stopped here anyway on the Fantasy Football Counselor podcast, number one podcast, but now it's official. Fantasy football 2024 is in full effect. And in this video, we're going to talk about count them 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs you should never, ever draft again. It's game over for these guys. They're washed up, end of the line. You don't want any part of them. I don't care about the value. I don't care about anything. All you should be doing with these 4 running backs is completely avoiding them. I'm going to get to which 4 running backs they are and why you need to avoid them in this episode. Fantasy football is back. Let's get to the show. All right, guys, welcome back. Let's get to the show here, and we're going to talk about 4 running backs you need to avoid. Guys, it is here for pre-order, 16-round draft solution 2024, the game changer, the system that helped you guys figure out Sam Laporta before anyone else, Tank Dell, and Rashee Rice, and on. It helped you avoid guys like Pollard and Ekeler and some of the other busts I'm going to mention here in the show. Guys, listen. 16 rounds of the game changer. You could pre-order right now just for this week alone. There's a code. It's called Early Line. Take advantage of the code. It's only for this week. It's limited. 16-round draft solution. You can Google it. I've linked it below here, or head on over to thefantasyfootballaccounts.com. And you can bundle it with I'm actually doing a fantasy sports summit. We're going to have NFL athletes, still to be determined on the names. We're going to have some nice big names here for you. There's going to be a PS5 giveaway in the summit. It's going to be a virtual online conference where you get to come hang out, watch the interviews, interact, Q&A, have a chance to ask these athletes questions. Fantasy analysis by myself, mock draft, everything, guys, at the Summit. Summit 16 rounds is a combo package. Just head on over to thefantasyfootballaccounts.com. Under 16 rounds, scroll to the bottom. There's a combo package you can get right now, or just get 16 rounds on its own. And you can use that promo code to get a discount on 16 rounds, okay? Now, if you get the 16 rounds, there's going to be a prompt for an upsell to get the Summit, so you can embed the code for the week, right? The code's going to be Early Lion. You get your discount, then you can add the Summit package as well. So many ways you can go about it, guys, but the deal's only this week, guys, okay? For the Early Lion code for 16 rounds. But get in, guys. Get into the Summit. Get into the solution. You're going to smash your leagues. I had to make the announcement. It's official. Pre-orders are open, all right? So let's dive into this, guys, okay? Super Bowl's over, all that antics. I'm still seeing social media posts with Pat Mahomes and all the Chiefs and stuff. I've had enough of that. We need to focus on next year. Hopefully they don't three-peat. I know it was scripted, but that's besides the fact. This is not what the conversation's about. We're getting back to fantasy football, but mind you, I will be doing news here as well. I will be doing a lot of news, so turn on that bell, subscribe, okay? Let's go. Drop a comment below as well. Smash thumbs up, drop a comment. I want to get your feedback on this, all right? Let's dive into this. The first running back you need to avoid, you never, ever, ever want to draft this guy, is Tony Pollard, all right? Now, this is a guy you should have drafted anyway. I told you, mind you, everyone was so fascinated about him this past year because in 2022, he finished 8th amongst running backs. Remember, guys, this guy was a 4th-round pick in 2019, who had years to wow us, were not wild, was a backup to Zeke Elliott. Listen, when a running back comes into the NFL, it's almost an immediate impact for the most part. They get the time to shine, and they really shine. They take that RB1 spot, all right? Mind you, sometimes, running backs get buried, a year or two behind a guy. It's very rare, but they come up and they emerge, right? But this guy was buried behind Zeke on the depth chart, had a good year. Everybody was on him, like, draft him around. I'm like, no, avoid him. Last year, I told you to avoid him. Now I'm telling you, really avoid him. But now everybody that can Chiefs have caught on. So we're already light years ahead here on the Counselor podcast. And 16 rounds is light years ahead of everybody else. I told you in 16-round draft solution, do not draft Pollard. But everyone had him in round 1. But I'm telling you here now, he's going to probably be valued this year. And you may be tempted. But I would assume the Cowboys are definitely making a move. They maybe look to acquire Derrick Henry. I don't know why they would at this point in this late in Derrick Henry's career, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I think that either way, I think Pollard's definitely going to be in a committee this year. I think they draft a rookie. He's just not the guy. And this was last year's news. I want to implore you. Yes, I'm talking about it now, but this is more of like a I told you so, but also just never again. Okay? But he's just done. He was never that outstanding anyway. But Tony Pollard, if you didn't listen to me last year listen to me again. I don't care if I get him with my last pick. I'm just not drafting him, okay? No desire there. I mean, he had the opportunity, 252 attempts, barely cracked 1,000 yards, 1,005 yards, 6 touchdowns, finished 14th. I mean, this is a guy you drafted in the first round, just didn't, with that type of volume, we should be looking at close to a 2,000-yard rushing season. Just didn't really get it done, all right? So, Pollard. Second guy here, I know you're going to be tempted to draft this guy. He finished 6th in PPR last year, which isn't bad, but he's heading into his 8th season. The guy I'm talking about is Joe Mixon. I was never a big fan of Joe Mixon, and a big part of that is maybe the off-field stuff prior to him coming in the NFL. If you don't know about the off-field stuff, just Google Joe Mixon punch. Watch that video and tell me if you're still a fan of Joe Mixon, right? Not a fan of the character, not a fan of the guy, and he's never been like an outstanding running back that's gonna jump out on the field. Like, he's not gonna be a Breece Hall type explosive back. I just not a guy that's exciting, right? But understand they did bring in Chase Brown last year. He's a 5th round pick. And when teams draft a guy in the 4th or 5th round, they're always looking to acquire a guy with more upside. They might invest an earlier draft capital kind of pick. Like, for example, the Falcons, right? They had Algier, who had a good season the year before, but he was like a 4th, 5th round pick. And then they acquired Bijan, right? Because they didn't really believe in their 4th round pick. Round 3 and up, good, right? Round 4 to 5, very unlikely that 4 or 5 pick is going to be the guy. Maybe Chase Brown does become the guy. I think he looked really good on the time that he played. I like Chase Brown. Don't get me wrong. That's another topic. Make sure you guys subscribe, thumbs up. We're going to dive into more of this stuff, obviously. Tons of content to cover here in the offseason as we head towards our draft in August. And again, all this is going to be in the 16-round draft, so it's one spot. But Joe Mixon is what I'm trying to get to here. He's 28 years old, heading into his 8th season. Okay, that's the end of the line for me. He had a good season last year, right? Again, 6th in PPR, whatever he finished, 257 attempts, 1,034 yards, 9 touchdowns. And he's going into an offense that looks good this year. Jamar Chase has to step it up. Joe Burrow has to step it up, right? A lot of people saying they're going to eliminate the Chiefs this year. I don't know, man. Joe Burrow's got to stay on the field. So either way, I don't trust Joe Mixon. I don't think he's going to stay there. If he does, meh. I'm not excited. Wherever he goes, meh, I'm not excited, right? So Joe Mixon, for me, he's just out. 28-year-old back, and in his 8th season, just a no for me, man. So Joe Mixon, I'm out on. Just never draft again. He's never going to be that exciting back. It's just not exciting, right? Next guy here. This one's going to give me some controversy on this one, but Derrick Henry. Last year, I said Derrick Henry is kind of in his last hurrah year. Now, he's definitely getting traded. I don't see him staying on the Titans. I do like Tajay Spears to be the guy. I think he was a 3rd-round pick. They may draft somebody else. They may bring in a veteran to back up Tajay. I think Tajay's got that capability to be the RB1. He's got that upside, but nobody really knows right now for certain. I love Tajay. Don't get me wrong, okay? But I don't think Henry's going to stay there. If he stays there, it's going to suck. It's going to be boring. But I don't see why the Titans would want to retain him at 30 years old in his 9th season. Coming off a 280 attempt, 1,067-yard rushing season, 12 touchdown type season, 8th in PPR. Decent season. But I think that's the end of the line, especially if he gets traded to another team. He gets traded to another team, moves to another team. I don't like old running backs for one. I definitely don't like old running backs in new situations. That's when old and new just does not blend. It's like, remember Ghostbusters when you were young? You're like crossing the streams. You're crossing the streams. You're bringing an old running back into a new team. It's just, I've never seen it really succeed. Correct me if I'm wrong, especially a guy who's 30, right? So when you're looking at running backs, you're looking for the young guys, the Breece Halls, the guys that are coming in, the Trey Benson, okay? Keep that in the back of your mind, right? So, I don't like Derrick Henry this year. I'm going to be staying away. Last year I stayed away, and he had a decent season, but I'm okay with that. But this is the end of the line. I got Derrick Henry when everybody was drafting Damian Williams. I remember there a couple years ago, if you go back, the year that Derrick Henry, as of late 4 or 5 years ago, had that monster season when everybody's kind of doubting him, and he broke out, had that, I don't know how big that season was. It was massive, 18 touchdown, whatever. But that was the year the mainstream were telling you draft Damian Williams ahead of Henry, and everyone was calling me crazy to draft Derrick Henry. I'm off the Henry train now. That ship has sailed. I benefited years and seasons ago in fantasy because of Henry. At this point, I'm looking for the next young blood, man, and it's definitely not Derrick Henry. So 30 years old, 9th season, new team potentially. That's a big no for me. I don't know about you guys, but that does not excite me at all, okay? Last guy here before I do, guys, make sure you guys do secure 16 rounds. You can get it linked it below. Make sure you guys do combo the Fantasy Football Summit with it, or you can get it on its own, the Summit alone, or the actual 16 rounds. All the information is linked below. I pinned the comment. 16-round drafts. So you should pre-order. Use code EARLYLINE. It's only good for a limited time, 1 week. Then that code's coming off. There may be deals down the road, but I'm not going lower than that, man. I mean, the value you get for 16 rounds, I do 100x value based on what you're getting. So make sure you guys secure the 16 rounds. Smash that thumbs up and interact. Are you drafting these guys again? Love to get your feedback here. All right, next guy, Austin Ekeler. Listen, I told you last year, again, being light years ahead of the Consheeps, this guy was drafted top 2 pick. He was the 2nd pick overall. And I told you avoid him. Why? Because he was the 1st overall finisher the year before in 2022. In 2023, everyone told you draft him. I said, this guy should have never been a top guy. He had an offensive coordinator that loved him. He was in a situation that benefited him. And that was it. He was it was a backup to Melvin Gordon years ago. He sucked. He was never good. And sure enough, he busted. He busted bad in 2023. And 2024, if you even think of drafting this guy, you're an idiot. I don't care if the Chargers retain him. I think the Chargers are definitely going to look at a running back early guy. I'm 100%. I don't care if I get him with the last pick. There's no Austin Ekeler for me, averaging 3.5 yards per carry last year. Didn't get paid. There was a reason, guys, why the Chargers didn't pay him, because they knew he was never that good. He was a backup his entire career, minus 1 or 2 good seasons based on, the product of a decent offense. And that's it. He got lucky, man. He was never a great running back. And yet everybody touted him out to be this amazing guy, riding him. And I said, avoid him, avoid him, avoid him. And sure enough, it worked out. And he proved me right last year by crapping the bed. So Ekeler, Henry, Joe Mixon, Pollard. These are not running backs you should consider. I don't care about the draft value. I don't care if you get them with the last pick. And if you're looking at Dynasty Fantasy Football, you shouldn't be keeping any of these guys. Their time is done. Time to trade them off. Time to dump them off. Get them off your roster. Look for fresh. Free up that roster position in your keeper league. You just don't want these guys, okay? So 4 running backs, stay away at all costs. Never again draft these guys, all right? Smash thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you think, and go get 16 rounds right now. Early Line's the code to get the deal for a limited time right now. Secure the solution. Secure the championship. I'll see you guys next video. I'm going to keep the content rolling as often as I can. I'm aiming for daily here. All right, we'll talk soon, guys. I'm back.